Hey, I almost lost my phone. What's up? It's the Culture Detective here investigating your favorite movies. And today I went to the cinemas again. I know I'm spending a lot of money watching movies, going out, wasting my time, but I'm sorry, dude. I'm sorry. I just love movies that much. So, about 3, 4 hours ago, I left my apartment, almost lost my phone because I dropped it in the elevator, and went to the cinemas to watch the new Park Chan-wook movie, Decision to Leave, or in Korean, 헤어지 결심. This is the ticket. Yes, I watched it. Yes. Also, if you're wondering, I also got the ticket to Broker as well, which I watched 4 days ago in the same freaking cinema as well. So, new Park Chan-wook film 헤어지 결심, Decision to Leave. This is one of my most highly anticipated films of the year, and I'm extremely happy that I'm able to watch it on the big screen in the cinema with other people around me. It is awesome. This is the first time I watched a Park Chan-wook film in the cinemas. And Park Chan-wook is not your average Korean director. In fact, he might be in the top 3 greatest Korean directors of all times. He is the man behind amazing films like Old Boy, The Handmaiden, which are the only 2 films I've seen from the guy, as well as other really well-known films like Thirst, Lady Vengeance, Sympathy for Mr. Vengeance, and now we have a new film. And of course, it is at Cannes. It premiered at Cannes. So at the Cannes or Cannes Film Festival this year, there were 3 films that I particularly wanted to watch, and these 3 films are David Cronenberg's Crimes of the Future, which I watched a couple months ago, Broker by Koreeda Hirokazu, which I watched 4 days ago, and finally, the Trinity is complete. It is complete with Decision to Leave. And yeah, as expected from Park Chan-wook, this is a murder mystery crime thriller that involves a lot of sex and violence. But this movie is apparently Park Chan-wook's least explicit movie in that, yeah, there's sex and violence, but it's kind of toned down. But anyways, this movie is about our main character, Hae-jun, who is played by Park Hae-il, the guy who has smooth hands in Memories of Murder. If you remember him, he is a police officer here. He's a police detective, and there has been a murder. And the murder victim's wife is played by none other than Chinese actress Tang Wei, who you may know from Lust Caution by Ang Lee. So, wow, I didn't expect Tang Wei to be in a Korean film. This is the second most surprising thing out of Korean cinema this year. The first most surprising thing is, of course, a Japanese director directing a Korean film, Broker. But, yeah, Tang Wei is actually really good in this movie. I don't speak Korean, but she seems pretty good in a Korean film. Her Korean doesn't sound bad at all, and it sounds quite fluent, in fact. And everyone else did a fantastic job. Now, first of all, of course, obviously, this movie is a gold mine of great cinematography and great editing. There are some of the best shots and some of the best edits I've seen all year in this movie. First of all, the cinematography is amazing. We constantly have interesting blocking, beautiful wide shots, intimate close-ups, gorgeous compositions, Dutch tilts, and interesting camera movements. Like, we got all these crash zooms. Near the beginning of the movie, we have Park Hae-il, spying on Tang Wei, and he's doing this binoculars thing, and every time it cuts to him stalking in his own mind, it just does this crash zoom out and then zoom in, and it's so trippy and it's so freaking cool. During the interrogation scenes between Park Hae-il and Tang Wei, we got some really interesting composition where we look at the monitor of a screen rather than the actual person itself, but they're both at the same shot, so we get a double. And then there's a scene towards the end of the movie where Tang Wei wears a flashlight on her head at night, and it looks like her head is glowing from a far distance, kind of like the album cover to Injury Reserve's By the Time I Get to Phoenix. And there are a few shots in the movie where characters look at their phones or look at a computer screen, and then we become the phone. We become the computer screen. There are texts overlaid in front of our faces, but they're reversed because we become the phone itself. Yes. And then the editing is fantastic as well. We got some match cuts, both visual match cuts and audio match cuts, cuts that make me laugh. There's a cut where it's a bunch of characters raising their arms, and then next shot is Park Hae-il raising his arm to press a bell outside of a gate. And my favorite transition, you can also see this transition in Oldboy, and that is a character's head becoming the wipe of two different shots. It is ridiculous. It's crazy. And sometimes scenes would even cut forward in time, like reality's glitching. So obviously there's just so much to chew on, and there's just so much to talk about just in terms of the cinematography and editing. And the score works really well as well. That's without a doubt. I like it. I enjoy it. And let's talk about the plot. Honestly, I don't think this movie hits as hard as Oldboy or Agassi. It's not as edgy either, in my opinion. In fact, I think this is one of the tamer movies from Park Chan-wook, but I think that's also fine because Park Chan-wook doesn't really try to be edgy in this movie. He tries to create a romantic atmosphere, in fact. I think Park Hae-il and Tang-wei has a lot of chemistry in this movie, even though I'm not a huge romance guy, as you can probably tell. But the romance in this movie works really well. It's really believable. It's really nice. And I genuinely like seeing these two characters together, bantering, talking to each other. There are also plot twists in this movie, as expected. And the plot twists are not as awesome as the other plot twists I've seen from the other two films I've seen from him. But still, they're great. And this movie also has a nice sense of comedy. I think modern Korean cinema has pretty much mastered this already. Just the right amount of comedy, not compromising the drama at all. Really work out. And I think the turtle scene is really funny, where Park Hae-il and another police officer had to chase after a bunch of turtle burglars. But one scene that I just remembered is a scene where Park Hae-il is texting Tang-wei's character, but every time he tries to text something, Tang-wei sends another text, so he erases his text and tries to text all over again, and he does it again and again and again. And I don't think I've ever seen a movie deal with texting like that. A lot of texting and social media represented in movies nowadays make me cringe because they don't know how texting actually feels like, especially to someone you have a crush on and someone you like. So I think this scene is written really well, and I also like how the first half of the movie and the second half of the movie is like mountain versus sea. The first murder victim in the first half of the movie died in the mountains, and in the second half it's in a swimming pool, but the sea is also kind of involved, especially with animals like turtles and fish being alluded here and there, so that's really cool. I mean, just look at the poster. Mountain and sea works together really well. And just a really good film. Again, I don't think it hits as hard as Oldboy or Agassi, but it's still fantastic. It's still one of the best films I've seen all year, and will probably end up in my top 5 of the year by the end. And I can't recommend this movie enough. I really enjoyed it. I really like it. I'm giving Park Chan-wook's new film, 헤어지 결심, or Decision to Leave, a light 9 out of 10. So have you watched Decision to Leave from 1 to 10? I would just rate it, like, and subscribe if you want more. And thanks for watching. Also, I wanted to watch Nope by Jordan Peele, but apparently it won't air in Hong Kong until August 18th, and by that time I would definitely have left. So I'll watch it in the USA, I guess.